Good evening, everybody. It's good to have you on. Good to have you on. It's 7 o'clock. It's the 15th of September, and we're here to kick off a clean week. How clean it's going to be, I don't know, but it's Monday, so we've got the blank canvas. What are we going to do? What is it going to be now? What are we going to paint this week? Last week, it was a little bit of a Jackson Pollock. It was all over the place. It was a mess. But tonight, we're going to start the process of making a little bit more sense of what's going on and also measuring social impact of a bunch of things that's happening. Of course, still center frame is the assassination from last week, because that's trickling down into so many other things. Tonight, we're going to have Rich Baris on in a few minutes, going to talk about how he's processing all of this stuff. The public perception's important with this, but I also just like talking to Rich about one thing or another. In the second half, I'd like to take your calls. I would get to some of your super chats, and also we're going to take a call with Libs of Reddit, who's got a little bit of a special report there, too, on all the insanity that's happening on the online insane asylum that is Reddit and Blue Sky. Of course, that is going to lead us to something else entirely tomorrow, and there's going to be little hints of it tonight here, too. Tomorrow, Timothy Gordon is going to join me, and I wanted to talk to him about something very, very specific. We are seeing almost, I don't know, it's almost like a little rapture moment right now. There's a spiritual fork in the road. Some people are just completely giving themselves over to Lucifer right now. And then others really are like crawling back to church. And many more on top of that are like, what do I do? What do I start reading? Where do I start? I feel like I have to go to church. I feel like I have to start praying. I've never done this before. What do I do? This has been a really big benchmark for people. And I want to talk to Tim not only about. I was trying to get a little bit of a panel going on for that, but I'd like to talk to Tim not only about the whole idea and the phenomenon of like this kind of demonic expression that we see, or the demonic being expressed in culture so prominently that it's actually freaking everyday blue-pilled normie type of people who just, don't really pay any attention. It's not like they were like adversarial or antagonistic toward faith or something, but all of a sudden they've been jarred. It's been a very jarring few weeks, and that is going. And I'm just wondering, what are great starting points, and what do you think about people? What would you recommend to people? There's a lot of confusion out there, especially when you talk about the metaphysical. When you talk about people who have never really given the metaphysical any kind of thought. Where do they start? Well, that's going to be part of what we do tomorrow. And then it's going to feed so naturally into what we already had on the books for Wednesday of this week, and that is the return of Jerry Marzinski. The last time we spoke with him, we were talking about schizophrenia and what those disembodied voices really are. Are they internally generated, or are they coming from somewhere else? Of course, what those conclusions were drawn. There is going to be a little bit more that we're going to get around to this time around, especially since in successive weeks, we've had so many very violent and criminally insane things that have happened that, of course, have all types of non-human entity references, self-references and manifestos, people drawing themselves as Baphomet. And of course, it just went on from there in successive weeks. These are things that are all out there in the open. So needless to say, the first 3 days of the week is going to be pretty interesting. And then hopefully by Thursday, we'll have stabilized a little bit, and we'll have some good times with Matt Xavier. Matt Xavier, who is a psychedelic DJ, uses music and plants to get people through stuff or into stuff. Who the hell knows? And then on September 19th, I think we got Sal the Butcher is coming back in this Friday. We'll see. And then, of course, Matt from Cultivate Elevate, he's going to be coming in on Friday, too, for just about a few minutes. I think like 20 minutes or so. Matt's going to be on in the second half. He wants to talk a little bit 9/11, a little bit Charlie Kirk, a little bit JFK. There's dots he's been connecting that I'm sure you guys have been fiddling with as well. So he's going to do a little bit of a presentation on Friday night. Then Saturday night is a Saturday night special. So you see how that all works out. We're live 6 nights a week this week, and I hope you will enjoy it because it's going to be really. The variety. There's going to be variety, but it's also going to be anchored by some. I don't know. It's still everything. I went live last night on Twitch. Live last night on Twitch. Just to, I don't know, play a couple of games of baseball, and I got the link out there. I said, guys, come talk, because there was just a feeling of dread, and I don't want to feel that way, especially at the tail end of my daughter's birthday. And what a beautiful day it was, and she's just gorgeous, and it was a heavy night, just because all of a sudden I blinked and she's 5, and but yeah, there's just a feeling of dread right now. We've worked through this before. The energy gets thick. It alleviates a little bit. We feel that ebb and flow, and sometimes we can articulate why better than others. But that's just where we're heading to right now. And you know what? Rich Baris is with me, and we're going to bring him on the other side of the intro. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show to the best of your ability. Call in on the other half. I'll be reading your super chats. You can send quitefranklysuperchat.com. That's universal wherever you're watching. Even if it's after the fact, if you're listening to this in the car at 2 o'clock in the morning, say, I want to contribute to that. Well, you can go to quitefranklysuperchat.com and you can leave me a message for tomorrow. So there's YouTube and Rumble rants and all that stuff. We'll be reading them throughout the show. And I hope you call in the second half as well. Don't go anywhere. We're getting started now.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!
Okay, everybody. You know, sometimes you just want to sit back and listen to the music. And, I did a lot of that over the weekend, and I had an extra cigar over the weekend, although I shouldn't say that live on a broadcast because there might be a life insurance person listening. And I'm trying to get... He said he doesn't use tobacco. Anyway, I'm so happy I've got my good buddy over here. He is the director at BigDataPoll.com, the People's Pundit. I've got his link to his locals link in the description of the episode. Listen, I go to him for a lot of things, public perception, all that other stuff, but also just to digest what the hell's happening. And he's a good friend. Rich Baris, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Living the dream, brother. How you doing?
I'm all right. I'm all right. You know, the week.
Stay positive.
Oh, you have to. So I'm just going to make this general. I'm going to generalize this, and then we'll find focus along the way. How are you processing last week? Because now we are in the fallout phases. Last week, from Wednesday to, I would say, yesterday, still in the shock phase, where it was almost like catatonic. Like, wait, what happened? Very like bad dream, pinch me kind of a thing. But how are you processing all this?
I mean, oddly, and I don't know if that's because I'm older now, but I woke up the next day and thought, and if anyone has ever experienced loss, like, this can happen. You wake up the next day and you wonder, that wasn't a bad dream. Like you're kind of hoping it was.
Yep.
And then you realize it wasn't. And I got to be honest, Frank, we all try to be, the best Christians we can be if we consider ourselves Christians. But sometimes that's not always the case with me. I was angry, Frank, really angry. Of course, sad for Erica and the kids. Sad for my buddy who was so close to Charlie. My just heart went out to them, and sad that somebody could lose their life doing what he was doing and what he loved to do, which is engage people in the most American thing you can do, the exercise of free ideas and the debate of the free exercise and debate of ideas in the marketplace of ideas, and to lose your life like that in the place that supposedly is the land of the free and the home of the brave because of what I believed is like a hate machine, which is what I've always called, I don't know how many times we've been on the show, your show, talking about this, but I really do believe that, there's an infrastructure in this country that survives off of propagating hate, off of lying about people and sowing these ideas into the minds of, sadly, too many people who suffer from being ostracized and mental illness in this country, and we have not addressed it. We've not dealt with it, and I think it's time that we talk about this honestly. That some people, particularly one party, but there's no doubt, there's more facets to this, but they use it as a weapon. Frank, I mean, this is part of the conversation, and for it not to be is cowardly. It's moral cowardice. So. It's been hard, but I went to church on Sunday. It was a huge help to me personally. I haven't been able to go anywhere without people coming up to me to tell me how much they love Charlie and how much he impacted their lives, which is special,
Yeah, I can imagine. I know that I know people, friends of mine like you, were directly connected. Not just like a degree or so separated, and I'm just in the boat with most people, where this is wide-reaching effect, because I think that the general impact, I think everybody knows that this is a major cultural flashpoint, and it's not so much about. It's localized for people who, friends, family. It becomes localized, no doubt about it. But I think far greater audiences understand what kind of a flashpoint this is for the culture at large. And then we get this, like we were talking about the machine. Here's a part of it, because there are other parts that I think are a lot more effective right now. But this is the vestiges of what was the ABC. Take a look at this headline over here, or this tweet. As voices across the political spectrum call to lower the temperature following the shooting death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, many in MAGA world are mourning his loss, with some enraged and escalating their rhetoric online. Before you say anything, Rich, this is what is finally making some people just snap. Because you think of how psychotic this is for a network like ABC to put themselves on the outside of the tension that they helped create, in order to gaslight people again. Only this time, the commentary they're delivering to people is, "Hey, everybody's trying to settle this thing down, but MAGA is just being so emotional and escalating. I've never wanted to strangle a newspaper before, but that's what I feel like doing."
Well, this is what the left always does after these events. They always turn themselves somehow into the victim, or they try to. And I think this time they're struggling because they can't. As we learn, of course, more about this. And, Frank, you and I have talked about this. I think that sadly, this is just one way an individual like this can go. There's a political story here. There's a political element to this, of course. But I think that we have a problem with individuals like this in our country, and that's just one way they can manifest. But the media is there, the eager inciter, the eager inspirer of violence and hatred. They are the most divisive, the most hateful, the most deceitful, and the most destructive force in our civil society. I have been not only watching it now for going on 2 decades professionally, I have been studying it and polling it. I've been involved in high profile cases where we are literally tasked with putting together juror profiles of people who are obviously more favorable to your client in the case. And I'm telling you, it is always the consumers of corporate media like NBC and the New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, who are always the most disinformed, and they think they're the most informed. I would say they're ill-informed, but that's not even true. They're informed, but they're disinformed. They're given lies and they're given disinformation, and they think they're so smart. They think they know everything. They know nothing. They think that Mike Brown put his hands up, said, "Don't shoot." They think, right, that Donald Trump was a Russian traitor who colluded with Vladimir Putin to steal the 2016 election, right? They think that conservatives have been calling for horse medicine to be used on patients of COVID. They think COVID results in more than 50% of the cases ending up in the hospital. Like they think Kyle Rittenhouse came to that protest with the intent to gun down black people because he's a racist. None of this is true. These are all media lies. They do it all the time. They think Donald Trump said that, Nazis, neo-Nazis and white supremacists are very fine people. They think Donald Trump said that all Mexicans are rapists and murderers. They didn't just come up with this. They were told this by a corporate infrastructure that is completely tasked with disinformation and getting people angry and divided, because it's all designed, folks, to get us to hate each other, because they want us to hate each other, because the minute we don't is the moment we realize most of the root of most of our problems comes from them and their friends that they protect. The people who pay for their commercials, the people who they share multiple things with, whether it's the halls of power to bedrooms to everything else, Frank. They're the ones who are the root of most of our suffering, and they want us to hate and even kill each other so we don't discover that that is the case. And and by the way, to get their preferred vehicle, political vehicle of and instrument of change, which is currently the Democratic Party. I mean, it's swapped back and forth over the years. I'm not giving Republicans, a pass either, Frank. I mean, the Bush era wasn't exactly great for us either as a society, right? But right now, there is no doubt that is this incestuous relationship between corporate media, the administrative state, and this political party, and this is what they do. And they do it to cover for themselves, and they do it to keep political power. And I mean, Frank, think about this, ladies and gentlemen. Look at how the world, not just the nation, but the world has reacted to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And by the way, with the left, many celebrating. Imagine if Donald Trump did not turn his head at the last second. Imagine for a second, folks, if he didn't turn his head to look at the freaking immigration graphic. Oh my God! No, I don't know. Would we have survived it, Frank? I don't know.
Well, listen, I don't know, because again, and we have to get into official stories here, and I just wonder, and that's one thing I think about is the eerie similarities between Utah and Butler.
Yes,
very eerie similarities between Utah and Butler. So we got to talk about. But before we get there, let me ask, because you said something right there about the cover that is laid by all of this craziness that we, for a long time we've written off the media. But of course, what we've been able to mock and ridicule and write off and actually translate correctly. I mean, I wish I can infer. I wish I can move on and transfer my perspective, or at least the tools for reading this stuff and comprehending this stuff that they put out there, to friends and family and everybody. But it works on a lot of people, and because it does, we get mired in these muddy fights that give the cover. My question is, and I don't know how quickly you've been able to put this together because it's less than a week now. If you've conducted anything that has given you insight into public perception, not only on this latest act of horror and violence, but whether or not cover is evaporating demographically. Like, for example, you and I, we talked about late night comedy shows. I know that the Emmys just gave Stephen Colbert an Emmy for best late night comedy show, even though he has no audience and they're losing $50 million a year. It's just something that they do. My question is the cover for their bullshit, is that slow? How fast is that going away as the demographics change and all of this old Broadway charade goes away? Or is that not the case?
Well, I think that they are running out of time to continue with this, like, whatever you want to call it, business model, right? Because this is business as usual for them. I mean, let's be serious. Let's call it what it is. But that cover works better with some groups than others. And I'll tell you, Frank, in the last 3 months, for instance, the polling has been pretty ugly for the right. It's in part due to some people just kind of going back to sleep. That happens a lot with America. They get what they want. The American voter will get what they want, and they kind of go back to sleep for a little bit. It's something I was trying to warn about for months, and that's why how you govern when you have the halls of power is so very important, because you don't want to disappoint anybody and disillusion anyone or make anybody complacent. And it's a tough job. It requires like day-to-day thinking. Today, the actions I'm going to take, will that keep people engaged, awake, keep them believing, and that they've been failing at that miserably. But I can tell you we are doing some things just so people, I mean, it's unbelievable the interest in this project. We're going to do a large survey that's more specifically geared to this and political violence, and studying it to try to turn something into a positive here and try to make a positive contribution to this conversation going forward, because we just can't reset and go again like after Steve Scalise. By the way, one of those cover stories we're talking that I cited before and directly related to your question about Russia collusion led to the shooting of Steve Scalise, right? So this will only last, I mean, at least I have great hope that this is the case. This tactic will not last forever. It will not last much longer. There are certainly more people that are susceptible to it, depending on age groups and different demographics. And I really do feel like there's like a great awakening happening in this country. They went to sleep again for a little bit, and it just tends to be the way it works in American politics. But I can see them even doing a generic ballot that we have been, we're working on a collaboration project with some other pollsters. You'll see it soon. But Republicans just came racing back to the conversation. And I don't want to make this about Republican versus Democrat, but people are now identifying more as well, which means the public did react to this. They did see this. Democrats had a pretty decent lead on the generic ballot in a lot of these polls. And now it's like basically, it's tightened quite a bit. They still have one, but it's tightened quite a bit. And again, I don't want to jump the shark here, but I do think that the study we have coming up will tell us a lot more about like that, what your specific question, how tolerant people are going to be to this, toward this in the future. But it's something I'm also getting worried about, Frank, because you don't want people falling for it anymore, right? Which I think gets at the heart of what you're asking. You don't want people falling for this BS anymore, but you also have to be concerned about how much longer the political right in this country is going to be being hunted. I mean, that's what's happening here. Can you go and find some stupid random other story that is not even morally comparable here? Sure, that's how statistics works. I work, this is my field. I work in it all the time. You will always find an anomaly, like an anomalous case, but it is not something that is so prevalent or such a huge problem. Soon, I do worry that it will be a huge problem. I do. And you brought up, parallels between Butler and this, and I can get down that road. I don't know if you wanted to steer down that road, but if they try to bury this, Frank, the way that they have been burying other stories. I just don't think that's going to work this time. I really don't. These people are, I haven't been able to go anywhere since Charlie was murdered. I mean, everybody knows who I am. People know I was friends with Charlie. I went to a funeral Thursday morning, and the family of the loved one who passed away is asking me how I'm doing and telling and giving me, just wanting to tell me how much they love Charlie and they loved what he did. A football game, man, in Eastern North Carolina's announcer comes out of the box and greets me, and all the people in the the stands are like, telling me how much they love Charlie. I mean, they're not going to be able to just like do their normal, little playbook here. People want answers. Everyone's pretty much decided on what they think happened here, and they just want the authorities to do their damn job for once and get the full story. Not like the Butler cover up or the Florida cover up, Frank. This guy just happened to be connected with some NGO that supports the Ukrainian war and, wants it ongoing forever against the Russians. Like, people want the full story.
Yeah, but Rich,
Cash is going to have to give it to them.
I know. It goes back. It goes back to even other things like the Las Vegas mass shooting.
Dude, we still don't know. Come on. We know, but we don't have the officials giving it to us as like they should, as we deserve. This is the official count. It is what we all know it to be. He was shooting at a crowd filled with country singers because they're conservatives, and he was a fanatic leftist.
There's a lot more. There's even a lot more there, and I think it's the blank areas, and it's all of the ghostliness of a lot of these incidents that have really quirked people's brows. And with Las Vegas in particular, you're talking 2017 now. We got that within a year,
almost
10 years ago. And within a year of that incident, we got the FBI officially saying we'll never know what happened. Now, I'm curious as to why we are so deep now into 2025. And with President Trump in the White House, you'd think that there would be a little bit more of pedal to the metal as far as who the hell tried to kill me? I would be solely focused on that. I haven't heard anything about the Assassination Council since they formed it, and I got the headline about it. So I don't know about that, but now we have a whole new situation. And let me ask you first, where are you with the official story, and what are you satisfied with, unsatisfied with? Because there's a lot going on out there, and there's people that just don't believe a hell of a lot that's coming out.
Well, I thought honestly that the FBI, particularly Kash Patel, going out and tweeting things he's not sure how the interview is going to pan out with the suspect. You do not go to your Twitter feed and say, we have a suspect in custody, and act as if like this person had some kind of connection to this assassination, and then within not long at all, quote tweet and say, "Yep, no, he was good. We interviewed him and he's gone. We let him go." Well, how about you shut your mouth before you know what you're talking about? Be responsible, and give people accurate information. Let's be serious here, Frank. It looks like, again, we are learning more and more that, and even Dan, you got to at least give this to Dan Bongino. He at least admitted publicly on camera today that this appears to be yet another case of multiple people should have been given a red flag about this guy's behavior and his mental illness. It was, I knew over the weekend, it's this Monday, so it was actually, it's been like 2 days that I knew they had already found messages going through his stuff. There were people who had advanced knowledge of this. We all, I don't know how many people might have saw those, some of those messages maybe leaked on the internet, but we were told that and told to be quiet, and we did. But you figure like by Monday, you would know a little bit more. How long does it take the FBI to go and interview these people? This is a joke, Frank. I'm not happy with it, especially since I guess it's a bit of almost PTSD. You're just waiting for them to go into cover-up mode and just like close the book and forget all about it. like they did after they named that commission when it came to Butler, and it's gone. There's nothing happened. The case, as far as Cash Patel is concerned, case closed. Ultimately, the father, and you're a father, I'm a father. Ultimately, the father identified his son. The father knew because, I mean, the father knew because, of course, he knew this kid was not MAGA, right? Like this idea, you see these leftists just spinning over the weekend on Twitter and other social media platforms.
It's hard.
Charlie was killed by his own. Like,
yeah.
You have got to be some kind of self-deluded to convince yourself that that's true. It was always the much more likely scenario that this kid was radicalized on college campus by these groups that we all know about, that are all funded by the people we know who fund them, all of these like left-wing millionaires and billionaires that keep these groups on campus preying on the lost, right? And this kid comes from a conservative Mormon family. And he goes out into the big, bad, wide world. I've seen it a million times. I mean, we all knew that was the more likely scenario. When he rebels against his parents, he rebels against his family and all the values he was raised with, and becomes the complete polar opposite. Probably we're going to find out that he did not adjust well at Utah State. He either started to have academic issues or certainly social issues, got involved with some obscure like gamer club of furries and others. I mean, this is the... Guys, there's a profile of like, this is not a big mystery. You just have to figure out which path he took and which one it is. But I guarantee the FBI already knows that, is my point. Of course, they know it. They've already seen a lot more messages than we have. But ultimately, they did nothing to stop this. They're always too involved in some political case or climbing up a telephone pole outside of Trump Tower or one or Trump supporters instead of doing anything like, I don't know, actual crime fighting or stopping of political assassinations. Hell, sometimes they even cause them. You know, in the case of Malcolm X and others, or maybe they're too busy, you know, massaging some idiots out in Michigan because they want to entrap them and give them the grand scheme idea, go kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. I mean, this is what they're doing instead of actually like fighting crime. And to me, it's a little laughable that you can appoint Cash Patel and somehow he's going to reform that agency. It's crazy. That's nuts, Frank. The father turned him in, identified his son, and did what is like a nightmare to any father. I can't even imagine being in this man's position. I can't even imagine it. You know, God, honestly, I feel bad for the man. I don't know what he did wrong. I don't know what went wrong in his household, if anything at all. But I can tell you this. To turn your own child in and to have to come to terms with the fact that he's a monster who was fanaticized, you know, made into a fanatic on a college campus in the United States of America. I mean, it's just horrible. It's horrible. It turns out they could have done nothing wrong, Frank, as parents, other than send their kid to a freaking campus in the United States of America.
There's a lot. Yeah. And I'm sure I'll be taking calls in the second half. And I'm sure that there's going to be plenty of people who bring their questions to the forum here, because I don't know, when we talk about Butler in particular, pretty striking stuff. I mean, the big difference being that Butler was a failed operation, but you have two...
By the grace of God.
Yeah.
By a miracle. By him going like this and turning his head at the last second.
But you had two untrained nobodies that get perfect rooftop access with the distance that is almost exactly the same. Speculation about plants and spotters in the crowd. Even strange figures like this George Zinn guy, whose first inclination was to scream that he was the shooter and shoot me and like distract.
Almost like a distraction, right?
Yeah, like that.
Almost like getaway cover, right?
Yeah, and I think that since he's been released, he's been charged with obstruction. But still,
I hear he's like a gadfly too. Like he shows up at all these events and he's like a pain in the butt, and he's been doing this for a while. But that doesn't mean anything. In fact, that makes him more suspicious. Like what do you have nothing else to do with your life but be a gadfly, Frank? I mean, that's sick. There's something, you know what I mean? Like that's not normal behavior, bro.
I know. There's so many things going on over here, and then you have the more mainstream, the basic left-wing radical theories that we're talking about here. What was the motives? And then you have the left-wing deflection theory, which you had already mentioned, that the shooter was a black-pilled Christian nationalist Groyper, even.
Come on.
Which doesn't make sense on a number of levels. You know, the whole Antifa bullet casing inscriptions, the parents ultimately turning him in, the transvestite girlfriend, whatever you want to call this, define the situation. And of course, the more mainstream issue with the reaction of the murder itself. I mean, I don't know. The only thing that makes sense about the left-wing deflection thing there is that it makes it you have to have fractured mentality to even make the contradiction make sense, because it doesn't at all. How that was the only person out. I just don't get it.
They're unremarkable people who have, I mean, everyone's like, you know, speculating that this was like, you know, somebody who had a lot of practice because he shot a lot of guns with his family. That's nonsense. I mean, other than being the cowardly assassin who murdered Charlie Kirk, he's an unremarkable individual, just like the other two would-be assassins of Donald Trump. Yet somehow, 2 or 3 of them managed to get up on a building that has no security with a long rifle. I mean, one of them, by the way, in the case with Trump, guys, have you ever been to a Trump rally or anywhere that there is a president of the United States? You can't get on top of a rooftop.
The only roof.
The only roof. Get direct sight. Stop it. The only rooftop, Frank. The only rooftop. Come on, guys. Give me a break. Like, I'm just not believing it anymore. It's becoming like a playbook. We'll find out, or, you know, well, we better press for it. But I get suspicious when I see the same telltale signs all over again. Discord. Again, we'll go back to the Michigan case with Gretchen Whitmer. That is how the FBI nudged those guys to do that, through Discord. All right? And this is not a new playbook. And so you're asking us to be stupid children, naive children, to not speculate the worst here. And we'll never hear anything about Trump's would-be assassins unless they want to re-raise the individual and questions surrounding the individual to somehow, I don't know, help them bomb a foreign country. They only re-raised the issue of Trump's assassin when they wanted to use it to convince Trump supporters to bomb the nuclear sites in Iran on behalf of Israel because, oh, don't you know that we suspect that it was actually Iran who put the guy up to it? I mean, guys, you know, give me a break. If you believe that, if you really believe that, then I don't know. Maybe that's why we're in the position we're in this country right now. Because otherwise, I mean, I'm of the mind that you have to be a complete toady. You have to be a complete Girl Scout to believe. And actually, that's an insult to Girl Scouts. You know, you have to be ridiculously naive to keep buying the same old BS over and over again and not see the hallmarks of something that doesn't make sense. But at the very least, even if it's none of that, ladies and gentlemen, even if it's none of that, and it follows the similar, which is, I've been talking about this a lot on the show, follows the similar pathology of a mass shooter or something. You know, in the 90s, there were all, you know, many of them like wannabe neo-Nazis or skinheads, and they were the others, the outsiders, right? And those who didn't belong, and they would have these issues fitting in with society and mental illness, and you know that's how that issue manifested back then, right? More recently, it's manifested into the other being these, you know, rash of trans shooters, etc., right? And usually young white men, right? But they're certainly not alone. But even if it's just that, which is already bad enough, Frank, there's no shortage of hate being pumped into their ears and in their brains to nudge them to do these things, right? So in the cases of mass shootings, the media is well aware that they inspire events like, and they just don't care because in their mind, dead bodies, particularly dead kids, are very effective at helping them push gun control. So they don't give two shits. And they just inspire these events over and over again. And they were talking about it with Charlie, the Colorado incident, as if this was gun violence, and we need to push for gun control. You saw them all over social media doing it. The Colorado event was the contagion, what we call the contagion event, from the incident that happened 13 days before from a trans shooter.
Well, Rich, I mean, we've hit on this so many times, you and I. When people are taught ad nauseum, they hear it ad nauseum, that the main difference between their positions on things and that of their political opponents is literal genocide. If that's the main position, the policy position difference between everything is genocide, how could you expect many of them to feel any remorse, I should say, when a so-called Reich member is gunned down? And that is really what has been backing up this sickening level of confidence and glee that people have presented themselves to the public with, and I don't get it, as a testament of how crazy of things have become, and not just speculation. How things were for so long in a little bit more low key ways. If you just look at the people being fired all over the place for behavior that they obviously had been led to believe was morally and ethically permissible.
Totally.
It's the only way.
Totally.
It's the only way you can put yourself out there like in this fashion, and think that you're going to be patted on the back. I mean, you can tell that these are just people who have been completely led astray, and perhaps they have, they've taken the reins and they're going their own way with it now. But still, they've been programmed. What do you think about that in particular? What do you think about the person who says that the right is getting played right now in cheering for the firings and the reprimandings and all that other stuff, the so-called cancel culture response that we've spoken out against? What do you think about people who say that we're getting played into a hypocrisy on principle?
I'm sure we can find examples where maybe they're going a little bit too far, but there is a major difference between what the left had been doing over the years, even during the Trump administration, the first Trump administration, and then certainly when Joe Biden won the presidency. We went through this very dark period of censorship and cancel culture. There's a major difference between that and what you're seeing here from conservatives in response to how some of these leftists have behaved in the aftermath of Charlie's assassination. One, Frank, is an attempt to censor people based on their political views, based on what they believe, right? And a great example of that would be what's going on with the DOD. We can compare both, have how these administrations have dealt with it. This is about conduct unbecoming of somebody who wears the uniform. It's not about their political views and whether they agreed with Charlie or not. It's about being a decent or a horrible human being. Nobody's objecting to whether or not they're allowed to speak about their political views. They're objecting to them being a piece of shit. That's the difference. When Joe Biden came into office, he created a rat culture at DOD and in all the branches of service, to include the Marines. I had the documents. We put that story out. I leaked them onto Twitter, and they weren't saying, if you see anybody cheering for the death of a politician, let us know. That's conduct unbecoming of an enlisted or an officer in any of the branches. They were saying, if you see any right-wing extremists, let me know. By the way, here's the definition of a right-wing extremist: somebody who questions Dr. Fauci's authority. Yeah. Somebody who supports Donald John Trump. By the way, they refuse to refer in that directive from DOD. They refuse to refer to President Trump as President Trump. They refer to him as Donald John Trump. That's the difference. One and to sit here and watch Amy McGrath and other leftists and politicians with this hypocrisy again, like they're the victims. To watch this is just disgusting. They were literally hunting and creating a rat culture, over political beliefs and free speech. That's not the same as what's going on here. This is about policing our moral behavior. This is about policing our society on whether or not we value human life. That's totally different than what we were seeing in the cancel culture era. Totally different.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something. If you worked in your office, you work in an office, guys, and one of your coworkers on the way to work, a woman, was brutally raped. If the guy she sits next to in the cubicle laughs hysterically when he hears about it, do you want that piece of shit working in your office, or should the boss fire him?
Good point.
That's the difference here. Now, it's not the same. What they wanted is everyone sitting in the cubicle watching, during break, and, they're eating their sandwiches, watching the news, and one guy says, oh, that Trump, I love that guy. And he gets fired because he likes Donald Trump. That's the difference. They're not the same.
I'm glad you bring this point up there, too, because I've been thinking a lot about just optics lately. We've been served up such staggering contrast in optics in the last just few weeks. And then the exclamation point last week. I mean, and you can have all of your, we've often talk, because we're not a monolithic group over here. We talk about our the things that we approve of, that we disapprove of. We try to constructively criticize Donald Trump and all that, and turn those criticisms into really good conversations, just so that everyday people can talk and learn something, and that's what we do. So disappointments, suspicions, all that aside, when you look at the basic optics, for example, last Thursday, when Trump was at Yankee Stadium, I mean, he's in the New York Yankees clubhouse. He's shaking hands and all that. He's coming across as just a regular kind of, affable guy. And yes, stern, especially when he deals with the media, but they're snakes. And everyone on the outside of that really has been just looking like an absolute snarling monster. They seem unreachable. They are incoherent in every stance that they make. They're drooling with hate. They're murderous. That's the temperature right now. I was just watching a little bit of the Piers Morgan debates, those panels that he has. He did one today. Jack Posobiec was on there with what's his name, with Cornel West and Anna Kasparian and Andrew Wilson.
Sorry, Jack. I didn't realize you did that one too.
No, he was.
God bless you, brother.
He was definitely the quiet one there today. But after Cornel West rage quit and left, they replaced him with that Destiny drug addict. Okay, and first of all, he's the sickest motherfucker on the planet. Just sick body language. He's a stomach churning weasel. But one of the things he kept bringing up is how can we all agree that during the reason why he would not denounce the political violence is because Donald Trump hasn't tried to bring down the temperature of this thing. Okay, sure. But then he attached to that. Can we all agree that during Biden, things were a lot more chilled out? That there wasn't that during Biden, compare the protesting that's going on right now to what was going. It wasn't happening during Biden, and I'm thinking the optics, you can't see the forest for the trees. I know the only people who are out there causing problems in the streets when they don't get what they want, whether Biden is in office, we are still going to work. Okay. When Donald Trump is in office, you guys are rioting because you didn't get something your way. You're trying to make everybody, your modus operandi is make normal people feel uncomfortable. And the optic, they can't see the forest for the trees. And that in itself is really concerning because we got to live around people who have absolutely no way of being able to discern reality, even the reality they're creating.
Yeah, it's extortion. I mean, so what we're supposed to be grateful that when you're in office, you're not extorting us anymore with civil unrest. I mean, it's political extortion. That's what they're saying. So, things were so much calmer when we had our way.
Yeah.
And because we didn't get our way, now it's crazy, right? And it's all Trump's fault. No, it's your fault. You lost an election and you refused to accept that the country rejected your ideas. So instead of making better arguments, you just go back to the hate machine, you drum up unrest, you foment all of this hatred, you get all of these people in the streets, you riot every damn city. Like you're just that is political extortion, Frank. And it's this is but again, until we start to just call it what it is, there's no having a debate with so many people that truly do believe it. If we don't call it out, then many people are never going to realize that they're actually victims of it. A good example of this, and I know a lot of people say, "Oh, Rich, that's going to be impossible." It's not totally impossible. A good example of this was my pile on Stephen King last weekend. Last week after this happened. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
But I quote tweeted him and I was, you have no idea what you're talking about. You don't know who Charlie is. He never advocated for the stoning of gays, right? And it went viral. Stephen King apologized. But what does that tell us? He really believed Charlie called for the stoning of gays.
Mm-hmm.
He believed it. I mean, it's rare to see people apologize in this day and age. So that was nice. But it is a testament to how strong, these forces are, as they are absolutely acting on us every day in society, day in and day out. If we don't talk about them, then there is still going to be, even though millions are awake, there are still millions who are not. And they have to know what is being done to them. They're being, I don't use stupid words like brainwashed, whatnot, but they're being duped. They're being tricked. And I hate to say it, but I'm starting to see a lot of similarities between the way you have any of these other terrorist groups like Hamas or Hezbollah, right? They have their political wings, Frank, and then they have their recruitment pools, and this constant propaganda, acting on these recruitment pools. And they have these organizations that go out and hunt these marks, and they end up their little society, crazy foot soldiers in society that'll do something nuts.
They've got categories of bomb makers and categories of academics, and
that's right. That's exactly right.
The academics make nuanced rationalizations and deflections on behalf of. There's blunt instruments out there who are just nuts, and then there are those who are very Machiavellian about everything, and this is what we're dealing with. This is why. Okay, so here's one last question on this before I ask you just a roundabout question about what's going on in the UK.
Yeah.
The question I asked last week on both Wednesday and Thursday. Now that most people agree in one way or another that enough is enough, and the position of appeasement is only going to get more people killed, what do you think would be appropriate ways to fix this without becoming animals ourselves? Or better yet, what do you say to people who say, well, Charlie's death is proof that words, or at least words alone, won't work? So I don't think that I disagree with that more than halfway, because we need words, but there is a need in several areas of society right now where people need to be institutionalized regularly. That there are things have to be completely defunded. Schools have to be really, really cracked down on. And and as I said yesterday, I hate to preface this much. I don't want to make being a communist illegal. If you have stupid ideas, it shouldn't be illegal for you to have a stupid idea about how the world can be better. But I mean, I don't know, man. We're behind the eight ball right now. What the hell do we do? Aside from continuing to talk, there has to be some action somewhere that puts an end to people being able to just walk the streets who are violent, criminally insane.
Let me just say too, I don't think Charlie would want that.
I don't even.
Where people's frustrations are, and believe me, I'm telling you guys, I was mad until I went to church yesterday, and even then, it alleviated some of my anger. But I don't think he would. I don't think he would want that. That's not the way forward. Yes, though there are things that have to be done, Frank. I mean, I will say this too, I'm with a little sharper criticism. Like the people that Charlie helped get in office, the people who Charlie helped succeed and his movement wants to help succeed. They failed him. They failed him. They failed many others too. They're failing the average voter right now. You have some clown like Langford who goes on as CNN and makes a moral equivalent, between differences that we see on the right and left. I mean that's moral cowardice. He did know himself, and this is a big problem, and it has to be addressed. Charlie himself did know and talk to people in the administration, apparently, because one of them just told me this the other day, that these organizations, they're NGOs, they act as civil rights organizations, they have to be smashed to pieces. They're not legitimate organizations, right? A great example would be the NGO that's connected with the second would-be Trump shooter. This is not an honest or harmless advocate for Ukraine independence. This is a organization that is funded by fanatics, and we have government. They get money from governments too, which is crazy, but they're organizations that are funded and operated by fanatics, and their entire job is to radicalize people, Frank, and then harness that. They're harnessing the mental illness that is so widespread in our country, Western countries, and they're turning it and converting it into political power. That cannot be allowed to happen. Yeah. I mean, they're essentially making an army of psychopath soldiers in civil society to go and target their political opponents and people who do not agree with them. And that is, by the way, party and mission statement, FBI, you should probably be doing something like that instead of chasing around nuns and everything else. That's just like totally ridiculous. I don't see reform. I don't see organizations like that, government agencies like this, being part of the solution. I don't think they can be reformed and turned into something that could have that mission statement once again. And I think they're rotten to the core. They're corrupt down to every last one of them. I don't want to hear about the good rank and file. That's 10 years ago. 2010 called, they want their rank and file back. Like, anyone who was ever decent and worked there is long gone or fired or whatever, retired, because they have been so out of control. No decent human being could continue to work for an agency like that and not be dirty themselves. That's where I'm at with them. I mean, could you, Frank, after everything the FBI has been exposed to doing, or so many others, but I'm using the FBI because their purview is domestic stuff. This should be a role that they take on, but they can't be trusted to do it. It's the same reason why they had to tap Elliot Ness and the Treasury Department to go after Al Capone. It was dirty. It wasn't going to happen.
It's one of those things where the FBI doesn't have any real constitutional mandate. So
no.
So it's hard for me to say, the illegal wing of the Justice Department that we created to go and just gallivant around the union and create cases for themselves and supersede local jurisdiction and all that other stuff. They're no longer independent. They've been completely consumed by some kind of special interest. Well, we better make an oversight committee or a superseding agency on top of that one until that gets consumed, and all of a sudden
that one gets consumed.
Exactly,
right?
And then
because Congress isn't doing their job.
Yeah,
they're supposed to be conducting oversight, but they've become partners in crime with these agencies.
Yeah, well, there's also just so many other local things going on with schooling and initiatives there, and like I said, that's
a whole other part of it.
Yeah, the lobby for disarmament, the lobby for keeping a lot of these kids medicated, and there is just there's just so much. There's so much. See, here's the thing. Whatever the way that everybody's become very well acquainted with is the way that Charlie Kirk lived his life, his personal life. I have a lot of friends like that too. I try to bring that into the show as much as we can. Family, friends, staying focused on what is most important, grasping onto and enjoying a life that is short and fleeting. And And more every time something like this pops off, it is always by a person who has been detached from stable family, stable health, whatever the hell it is. And of course, depending on what their racial makeup is or their background or whatever the hell else, there's all these different types of pivots. There's never going to be there's never a moment where everybody speaks honestly about what's going on, because they like the drugs, but they also want people disarmed. So it's always the personification of the tool instead of, hey, what is the real fact pattern here about what's happening, and why are the inner cities so bad, and how good and how helpful has our our means tested programs been since the civil rights era, and are we helping humanity or ruining it? And it's always resoundingly, we're making it worse. So I like you said, for that reason there is no real reform. So I want to start. I always want to start seeing localities nullifying laws coming from on high, and people knowing that we actually have that power as Americans.
Yeah, I just was kind of going to jump over you, but right. I mean, there are constitutional powers and authorities that have been given to us to rein that in. It's kind of like a backdoor way of doing it. We just don't exercise it, Frank. Right. We just, we've given them the final say in so much for so long, when I think at the end of the day, if you really want to start to humanize each other in each other's eyes, the better way to do that is to stop making us so disconnected and so distant from each other. And you want to solve various problems in society. The best thing to do to make sure that we do see each other as human beings is not to defer that task to some faraway bureaucrat that nobody knows and nobody's intimate with, right? The closer the solution is to community, to family, to local governments and other, whether it's townships or other localities, the closer it is to that, the stronger the human connection is, the stronger the human ties are. And it's a lot harder, Frank and folks. I mean, you should know this just by human nature. It's a lot harder to see the other as something less than human when you interact with them yourselves and you know them on a more intimate basis, right?
Yeah.
That's the way we are. That's the nature of the kind of the kind of creatures we are. We're like so very social animals, right? And we're like deferring all of these issues and problems and security threats, these whether they're fake or real, to these bureaucratic gods in some far off city, like the cesspool that is, our federal government. And that it's not helping, but it's also not making us better people, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Well, let me throw this out there for you. It's a C.S. Lewis quote from Mere Christianity that's pretty popular. You'll know this one. Suppose one reads a news story. I know you know it. Hold on. Suppose one reads a news story of filthy atrocities in the paper. Then suppose that something turns up suggesting that the story might not be quite true or not quite so bad as it was made out. Is one's first feeling, thank God, even they aren't quite so bad as that, or is it a feeling of disappointment and even a determination to cling to the first story for the sheer pleasure of thinking your enemies are as bad as possible?
Yeah.
If it is the second, then it is, I am afraid, the first step in a process which, if I am followed to the end, will make us into devils. You see, one is beginning to wish that black was a little blacker. If we give that wish its head, later on we shall wish to see gray as black, and then to see white itself as black. Finally, we shall insist on seeing everything, God and our friends and ourselves included, as bad, and not able to stop doing it. We shall be fixed forever in a universe of pure hatred.
Yeah.
And that's that is the kind of spell that was that is aimed to be broken when you do open forum, open lines, just try to talk to people. But as we know, there's a great machinery out there that tries to prevent this from happening. So I thank you on all that. I don't want to keep drumming because I think we'll have you back next week to do some a little bit more interesting.
I think we are, right?
Yeah, some metaphysical NDE stuff next week.
I believe we are.
Before you go, let me ask you about this. UK over the weekend. The Tommy Robinson was part of that. I have friends that went out there to cover this. Send them home. It's a very, it's immigration. They want their country back. The media is saying that there was about 150,000 people. Other people were saying, no, they're lying. There's somewhere around 2 to 3 million people. I don't know what the hell to believe, but it looks very impressive what's been going on in the UK. What do you know about it? And just give us the nutshell.
Well, I mean, that was not 100,000 people.
Look it.
I mean, I don't think we can all grab an accurate count, but when you flood the streets like that, that was an enormous amount of people. And Elon Musk showed up for people who weren't watching, and maybe you weren't following it. And as I was watching it, and as I'm watching Elon talk to Tommy, and I'm listening to this interview, I can't help to at least try to take one positive thing away from this, which is that, Elon was kind of like ostracized. He helped the right a lot in 24, and there's been a rift there, and maybe this event reminds everybody, look at that crowd, that's no 100,000 people. Maybe it reminds everybody why they came together in the first place, who it was they were opposing, what it was, like the evilness of the ideology itself, why they were opposing it, and can help them get past their stupid little differences in order to deal with the more pressing issues. And in Britain, I hope they're able to do that. I mean, this is Britain should be a canary in the coal mine for the Republican Party in America. They had a lock for a while. They had the Tories had the chance to rule that country and restore that country to its former greatness. It's now on the edge of, the collapse of a once great nation. And they blew it. They blew it by not living up to their promises, by not being responsive in government, by not. Brexit was obvious.
Look,
it's
Rich,
Frank,
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to tell you. It's
I'm sorry to interrupt.
100,000.
I mean,
it's ridiculous.
It's
ridiculous.
crazy. Just the beginning
There's
of this,
millions of people.
This
Frank.
New York Post article, this New York Post video starts off by saying more than 100,000, and then it goes on through. it's throughout the streets for
100,000 on that street right there between those two corners.
Dude, we were past 100.
Packed in there, Frank. They're packed.
Yeah, we're past 100,000 right around there. Holy
people.
shit, man!
It's millions of people. I want to say millions, plural. I don't even know how to judge once you see a million or more. You know what it is, but I do know what 100,000 looks like pretty easily from various political things. What 20,000 looks like. What 50,000 looks like. Wildwood was a very impressive number in Wildwood, New Jersey. Frank, tell me something. Does that look a little bit bigger than Wildwood, New Jersey to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, 100,000. Give me a break. Wildwood was close to 100,000.
Just crazy.
That's just to give people a reference. The Wildwood rally was close to 100,000. Look, they're on London Bridge, bro. They're all over the streets and they're on London Bridge. I mean, this is millions of people. That's a huge amount of people.
You see, this is why I wanted to end with this, because it is a little bit more of it's a little bit more of a bird's eye view of just what is bubbling beneath the surface right now, and what vested interests you can call. You get perhaps in some cases one lone nut job that was created by the culture, and the culture produces nut jobs en masse these days. But
sure
Charlie Kirk, whatever the hell, wherever you're going with this, those are all attempts to stifle generational changes.
Of course.
It's an idea whose time has come. You're seeing this right here. There's nobody they can take out that can change what people are a part of right here in just the UK. And what everybody is affirming to each other just by being there, and in those numbers, it's incredible.
That's the message I would give people as like a positive here moving forward. I really do believe that their grip is weakened considerably. and that generational changes are, if the, what do we even call them? If the empire doesn't figure out how to get a new hold on new, because the fact of the matter is, folks, not enough people are being radicalized through the education system as much as it used to be. So when I was coming out of the 1990s and the 2000s, it was like everybody go to school and get a liberal arts degree. That is not the case anymore. It's slowing down dramatically. They need, by the way, particularly yuppie whites to do that. That's the most target-rich one for indoctrination. They're just not becoming. They're not a growing share of the population. In fact, they're a declining share of the population. So I do feel like, well, I'm not saying it's not impossible for them to figure something out, but I am saying on this current trajectory, their time is numbered. It's up. And this is what a failed dying regime looks like. This is how they behave. This is what they do to the population. Again, I'll leave you guys with what I started you with. They want us to hate each other. They want us to hate each other. That the longer we stay focused on each other, the longer they get to stay in the shadows and not receive the accountability that they so rightfully have coming to them.
Rich Baris, I appreciate I appreciate your time tonight, and I hope all's well with you and the family, and that I think we're all praying for each other these days. Everybody in the audience, I think we're all just
Amen.
Keeping the world and keeping that in mind, and I'll be talking to you soon, no doubt. I'll see you next week. We'll hopefully have something a little bit more interesting, a little bit something to kind of put our minds into something, I don't know, eternal. So that'll be fun, I hope, if not spooky.
And probably appropriately timed, which would be great.
Yeah. Have a good day. All the best.
All the best,
Send the best to Laura and the kids.
All the best to mine and yours as well, brother.
All right, take care. There you go, everybody. There is Rich Baris. Rich Baris, big data poll. Now, I'm going to have Libs of Reddit coming on in just a second. I want to talk to them just for a few minutes because you want to talk about a whole different kind of data collection, lowering yourself into the Mariana Trench. Oh man, the deepest of asylum dives. That's just coming up in a second. But let me read what's coming through the super chats real quick. Stowstube says, "Great Monday, Frank. Just saying hello and dropping a little something in that hat for great independent media. Thank you, sir." Thank you, Stowstube. Joe Martinez, I appreciate you. Thank you. Twitch 307 says, "Frank blocked me." That doesn't make sense. Frank blocked me. He says through their super chat in the chat room. Jay Britt says, "Love to see Rich on a roll. Great show, Frank." Kilroy was here. Says, "Hey, Frank, this is Zany Dude, and this is for September. I'll start up Patreon again in October 1st. Thanks." Hey, whatever you're comfortable with, my friend, as long as you're having a good time out there, it's good to have the company. Thank you. Rhinoceros says, perfect rationale, Rich. He is literally saying verbatim how my mind is going. Well, listen, I'm going to open up the lines after we talk to Libs of Reddit, because I know that there's a lot out there that has yet to be said. I wonder what you guys think about little details like the, first of all, what do you feel about the official story so far? What do you feel about this kid that we were being served up? You want to talk about distractions? Well, there's a lot of low rung on the ladder fighting that's going on between, was he right wing or left wing? Did he come up in a right wing house, turn left wing? Did he have enough time to turn left wing? All this other shit, and just happened to be the right wing person. Like it's incredible. It's incredible. You think, well, hey, there's so many people out there who identify themselves as liberal that see so much value in the elimination of Charlie Kirk. Why would you? But they still, just like the abortion issue, They like to create some sort of a buffer between them and direct responsibility of the killing of a human being or the killing of a child, which is why with abortion, the buffer is they will play mind games with definitions. When does life start? Or they'll talk about sentience or something like that. Well, not sentient yet, or they're still dependent on their mother. Any kind of game to be able to put a buffer between them and responsibility for the horror that they're approving of, or in some way trying to rationalize, where if you really get to the meat of it, they approve of it. I don't understand why they're taking this as a big W, but at the same time, they need the shooter to be right wing as well. Like they just don't want to be that intimately attached to it, but they still want to celebrate. So it's a very odd thing. But then again, that is you're wrestling in the mud pit with the pigs, where there are other people asking the question, is there any footage where you can clearly see this kid jumping off the roof with the rifle in hand? Because all of the footage that I can see is like Sasquatch level grainy, and I haven't seen anything convincing yet, but they found the rifle in the woods. They said, well, maybe he disassembled it. Why would he reassemble it in the woods with the scope on it? There's some weird shit here. There's some weird shit. The attack, just like 9/11, we can talk about any aspect of it as you like. This was intended to change the direction of the culture. It was intended to hopefully stifle or kill a movement or co-opt a movement, which is now firmly in the hands of Ben Shapiro. Listen, I've been reading it all. So we'll open up the chat in just the lines in just a second. Richard Collord says, I want to buy Rich Baris a movable Qbert sticker for his back wall. Yeah. Well, he just didn't, he wasn't as zoomed in as he usually is. So I had to zoom it in for him, at least with the split screen. Mark Sterner says, hey, Frank, I subscribe, but I've never submitted a super chat. Go buy some ice cream with the family on me. Great show, brother. Mark, thank you. I mean, that's wonderful. Aurora will appreciate that. I promise I'll take her out to ice cream. And I will say, this is from Mark. Who? Mark Sterner. It's going to happen. And if you didn't see yesterday's broadcast with Aurora for her 5th birthday, she said I want to do a show. I said, what, on the microphone at the studio? She goes, yeah. I said, all right. So I put together a half-hour show, and I think it'll lift your spirits. It lifted mine. So go check that out, especially if you've been watching. Many of us met during 2020. And then the other wave was 2016, 2017, and some other pit stops along the way. But a lot of us met in 2020. And that's when she was born. And now here we are. We've blinked, and it was 5 years ago. And that scares the shit out of me. But I'm also very proud. Anyway, Rhinoceros also goes in there and says again, absolutely rich. So he likes that. Shotzi says, sending a little Monday support. Thank you, Shotzi. And Crestmont Bear, I did not see this before we ended the last week. Crestmont Bear says, unrealistic as it may be, there's a part of me that genuinely hopes that Charlie's death was a social agenda hoax to remove him from the public stage and that those children still have their dad. I would take it too. I would take it too. If that was an option, I would take it too. I would much rather be pissed off, be absolutely outraged and pissed off that somebody would stage that kind of a thing, but still have the pain of those children, the emptiness that has been created for those children, that void filled. I would much rather take that. I think everybody would too. But I know that bargaining phase. We bargain all the time. That's what's really interesting about this. You know, I'm sure it would have been the same way. And thankfully, we won't know. Last year in Butler, would people be bargaining this way? Would have been at that much of a wake up call. Hey, the close call was enough of a wake up call. for some people. ST says the devil is in the details always. So there you go. Okay, let's move on over to our friend tonight. We are bringing in, if you guys remember, actually, I don't know if it was earlier on this year or late last year, but Libs of Reddit is with us tonight. How are you, my friend?
Good, Frank. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. Was it earlier this year or was it late last year that you and Reddit Lies came on?
I think it was earlier this year.
Okay.
So much has happened between then and now. It's like, the 24/7 news cycle never stops, right?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And you know what? You like I said, people like you are really. I'm really appreciative of you and Reddit Lies for doing some of the dirty work that other people don't have to do. But you go into the beast, the belly of what I would say is the greatest digital insane asylum on the internet. And I don't know, give us a little bit of a report. What have you been tracking the last 5 days?
So it's been pretty much like you've seen across almost every other leftist social media platform. The celebrations started immediately. There was no stopping it. In fact, it was grotesque and vile immediately. I would say that, I mean, Reddit has a history of trying to target and employ violence against Charlie Kirk. Our Toilet Paper USA is an entire subreddit dedicated to making fun of and harassing Charlie Kirk. r/March Against Nazis is another one, and r/Anti-Fascist subreddit. Were very vocal in their opposition to Charlie Kirk, and many had threats for a long time of potentially, taking Charlie Kirk out because he was an effective voice for the moderate Republicans, and he was moving a lot of people from kind of the fence sitters and the near left over to the right.
Well, I'm looking at one over here, and this is from 11 hours ago. Do you guys think the MAGA movement is going to survive its current internal civil war? I mean, obviously this shit isn't going to survive after Trump dies, which I have bets on him kicking it in December. But the recent shooting of Spock being from another MAGA niche, and Fuentes behind the scenes clearly being pissed, makes me wonder. Like, honestly, I think MAGA is fully aware that a leftist didn't do this, and it was one of their own, but they won't publicly admit it. What the fuck are they talking about? They have, I mean, listen, we're very used to watching people cope, but we're talking about a DSA from what we know about him. And of course, there's always something out there that can add a little bit to the background. We know that a lot of young, useful dupes have been put into the crosshairs of some very big plans that were hatched on much higher levels. So who the hell knows how big this story actually is? But as far as he goes, where do you think that they're getting that he was a conservative?
It originates from multiple places. First and foremost, I would say that Rachel Kleinfeld started the Groyper rumor. That's where she said that the shooter could be a Groyper because of Nick Fuentes' criticisms of Charlie Kirk's previous stances on immigration and his support of Israel in the past. So she propagated that, and Reddit immediately started to gaslight and spam, basically saying that the shooter was a Groyper. I mean, where do you come up with this? I mean, somebody made a speculation. Reddit took it as a fact and immediately started spamming it all across Reddit, so much so that Reddit's own AI, which uses Reddit's comments to learn, has already started propagating the misinformation that the shooter was a Groyper. And it's important to point out that almost every single AI LLM is trained off of Reddit comments for the last 20 years.
I
All the
remember
comments
I was
for the last
reading
20
that.
years.
I was reading that. Yeah. Can you imagine basing anything as widespread and as structurally structural? I mean, you think about any kind of digital infrastructure based on whatever kind of dialogue is being produced on Reddit is absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's wild. They would talk about how basically within 15 minutes of the release of the shooter's name, r/something is wrong 2024 posted a screenshot of another guy with the same name but at a different address having donated to Trump. So, and if you think about it, Utah is a state full of Mormons, right? They have a core group of families that moved to Utah. Each family had 5 to 10 kids, and each of their kids had 5 to 10 kids. I mean, they're Mormons, they have lots of kids. So the same name of people, of different people within Utah, there's a lot of people with the same name in Utah. And this guy was 34 years old, had his address blasted on Reddit and then from there onto Twitter or X. And now he's getting death threats from leftists and people on the right because they don't know what the truth is. So it's wild.
Yeah, it is. And I've also seen multiple pictures photoshopped to put, to swap out whatever's on his chest at one given time or another. An old photo of the kid that's in question right now to put a Trump shirt on it. And then, but even just at the basis of it all, the parents had to turn him in, and he's living with a transvestite. I think it's a romantic arrangement. That's what's being reported. And
he was a Redditor also, by the way.
What's that? What happened?
The furry boyfriend pronoun changer of the shooter was a Redditor, and he posted on trans subreddits. Trans DIY, which is a grooming subreddit for peddling bathtub HRT. He posted on r/tran4 or 4tran4, which is like a 4chan version of for trannies on Reddit. And all of those subreddits have gone private since it was posted. They've blocked anybody from going in and viewing their subreddits because they know that they're in trouble.
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about with these websites. And obviously, this is a cultural contagion, and this was done very deliberately. And now it's, to what degree do you act on this, or can you act on this? It's just the published intent. You have to imagine that if they're living together, that this is not just going on in his head. Even if he's taking orders and he's being influenced by somebody else, there's no way that he's not communicating what is going to happen or motives, or I'm doing this for you, baby. How can you really separate the two? So I don't know if you've heard anything about that on that end. I guess I'm just reading into much different theories right now. So I haven't really caught anything on whether or not the transvestite roommate,
furry,
the furry has been brought in for questioning.
So I heard that he's cooperating, but so would you if you had a bunch of police knock on your door at 5:30 in the morning and say, "Hey, we know that you were talking to this guy and he was giving you accessory after the fact information." I wouldn't be surprised if he gets charged at some point for accessory after the fact. And others that were in their Discord server, because there was roughly, I think, 20 or so in their Discord server where the shooter admitted to killing Charlie Kirk for doing it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on there. It's a lot of baggage to put in the trunk, but you know what it is. There's a lot of radicalization that happens on Reddit. We've seen the violent rhetoric be ratcheted up to 11 since the Trump assassination attempt at Butler first. It was there before, but it really got ratcheted up. And then their lionization of Luigi Mangione on Reddit it's astronomical. They view that guy as an idol, as a god, basically, there, because he took down probably a leftist CEO of a company. I mean, most CEOs of companies are leftists anyways. But even if he was on their side, he represented something that was against communism or what they view as something that shouldn't be happening. So
Yeah.
Their glorification of violence has been festering and building for quite a long time, and it's not a surprise that the shooter's pronoun changing boyfriend Furry was a Redditor.
Well, Libs of Reddit, I appreciate you. I have this up on the screen right now. I hope people go check you out on Instagram. You're also you're not on in a official brand capacity on Twitter, right? You're just mostly Instagram.
I mean, I have my Twitter account is Sublime and Slime, and I do have a Discord server called Save America. It's a Trump Discord server that we built from r/the Donald.
That's right.
It's currently sitting at about 5,000 members. We've had a huge influx over the past couple of days, same as the churches. So when people say that the churches were full on Sunday because of what happened to Charlie Kirk, we saw it almost immediately after. We've been flooded, almost so much so that my admins and moderators, I haven't been able to keep up with the incoming people to get them vetted into the conservative side of the server. They've just been sticking around in general chat. So, and then on Reddit, r/conservative is the only bastion of the right on Reddit. And I know the mods there, they're great. They have their own Discord server, which is about 70,000 people in there. And they work hard at being the ones that are fighting behind the lines on Reddit. So just wanted to give them a quick shout out.
I remember you talking to you about the old the Donald subreddit, and that you were part of that over there. I know that you're in the Quite Frankly Discord, so it's good to have you hanging out with us. And
it's a great Discord.
Yeah, sometimes it just passes the time, and
it's cozy.
It is a cozy place. It used to be a lot cozier, but then it went away, and I don't know. We'll see. It's been building up nicely now. What was the other thing I was going to ask? Oh wait. Before you go, you said something about how there's like a waiting list of people to get into the server because a lot of the mods are vetting people for admission and stuff. You said that the churches were full on Sunday. Is that, were you talking about IRL, the churches, or are you talking about some sort
in real
of
life?
Okay.
In real life churches. Even at my church, we had people coming that we haven't seen since Easter, basically, which is. Usually, you have your Easter attendees or your Christmas attendees, but these people came, and it was very spiritual and very nice to see the coming together of people across the nation. And I heard reports and saw online. I posted the live stream of Charlie's church, Dream City Church in Arizona, in Phoenix, Arizona, where Charlie had gone to church. I had actually known Charlie when he was a teenager in Chicago, in the suburbs of Chicago. He was a couple of years older than my daughter, went to a school in the same school district as my daughter. And we went to the same church. His parents brought him to the church that I was going to in Rolling Meadows, Harvest Bible Chapel. Charlie used to come to the Republicans of Wheeling Township, where I was a precinct captain for goodness, maybe 17 years or so. And he would help out, volunteer with various campaigns that were going on. Mark Kirk, Joe Walsh were our congressmen in that area. Mark Kirk was the senator for a while, and Charlie Kirk helped out with those campaigns. He was a hardworking kid, from what I remember. I didn't keep up with him, didn't keep in touch with him afterwards, but when I joined the Donald as a top moderator, We got a little bit frustrated with TPUSA once in a while because they would steal our memes and slap TPUSA logos on them and just share them. But they knew what was working, and that was kind of the brilliance of Charlie. He had a finger on the pulse of viral politics, and he was the good gateway into getting people from the left and from the moderates into the right, into the Republican Party. And he was really good about that. So
Well, thank you.
I do appreciate Charlie, and I pray for his family. You know, he had two young kids, his wife, and that's probably the thing that hit me the hardest was that, because I have a family of my own, and it's sad knowing that those girls will grow up missing their father, but at least they have a father that was a hero for them, and they know that he's in a good place. So
no, there's a lot of people who are mirroring what you're saying right now, and I really appreciate the anecdotes. I really do. I think a lot of people like this afterwards. You know, we're all trying to balance out the good, the bad, trying to find some silver linings going forward, and it sometimes it's tough. So it's always good to hear. Always good to hear something light. And I'll have a little bit more to say about the church stuff tomorrow, because I have some big questions based on what I have seen, the yearning I have seen expressed on social media in the last 4 or 5 days. It's brought up some really good themes that I think will turn into a nice talk show tomorrow with Timothy Gordon as he comes back on. And I appreciate your time here tonight. Libs of Reddit, I hope people go follow you on Instagram, and we'll be in touch. I like these little roundups every once in a while.
Thanks, Frank. You have a good one.
All right, take care. There you go, everybody. Go check him out on Instagram, and that's what we have. All right, I'm not going to do an intermission because it's 8:37, and we're going to be just jumping right into extra innings after this. By the way, the Stand By Me film club that we were going to do tonight, we're going to do it next week, the 22nd. Admittedly, I've seen it quite a few times, but admittedly, I was not able to watch it again with all the craziness from this weekend with Aurora's birthday and just, catching up with work. And so don't worry, next Monday, and Lindsay Sharman's going to be on for that. So tonight is just going to be regular extra innings. I should have fired up the computer in the band room so that once I get off of here, I can just go live right from the drums. But I'll do that this week. We'll do that on Wednesday night. Let's take some calls, shall we? 914-200-0269. Bring whatever the hell you got. Let's go for it. 785, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Frank, how's it going?
Going well. Who's this?
This is a Sentinel.
Hey, Sentinel. Good to hear from you. For some reason, all the names that used to be put up there on Zoom, they're not names anymore. We're back to just numbers. And then after I get off and I see the missed call or the taken call, the call log, that's when the names pop up again. So I used to kind of know who was calling in. Not anymore. I don't know what the hell's going on over there.
Well, that's unfortunate. And, fuck Microsoft.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. So anyway, I was calling to say, hey, I would really appreciate you having Rich on tonight. I really felt everything that Rich was laying down. And because things are such a Debbie Downer right now, I had 3 songs I wanted to recommend everybody a chance to listen to try to lift their spirits, because last week when this shit happened, I was pretty fucking depressed. I was really brought down, and it pissed me off because I had such a good time with you and your family and everybody else in the Frankly community. As Michelle and I came out there, and Molly Artie and I came out there and and experienced the whole thing, and I felt robbed of joy because evil happened. And so I want to recommend 3 Dog Night, Joy to the World. I want to recommend Rick Derringer, Real American. And I want to recommend the Beatles, Here Comes the Sun, as joy for everybody. So let me tell you, I love America, and I'm so sad that somebody took the time to plan out the shit that happened last fucking Wednesday. It hurts. And, you know, I have weapons, but they don't hurt anybody because they're mine, and I use them, and they're a tool to protect me and my family in the hunt and whatever I want to do with them. But it's not okay to kill people. Motherfuckers piss me off. I'm sorry. I got so frank with my lingo. Love you, Frank.
It's
Have
all
a
right,
great night.
Sentinel.
Thank you.
Yeah, we needed that jolt. Thank you for the jolt, Sentinel. Thank you. I appreciate you. I really do. That's Sentinel and Molly Arty. I'm sure he's speaking for her as well. She's so mild-mannered. I haven't heard her curse yet. Vesper says, if not for Frank and After Hours, I would not have known who Charlie Kirk was. Thank you for that and so much more. Well, you know, it comes up, you were talking about last week, yeah, to end, because, of course, it was just all morbid. People were starting to submit to me, like, the best of Charlie Kirk reels and shorts. So it's okay, we'll just take a few of these, and that's how we'll do extra innings. Or as I'm starting to call the flip side, I'm calling both. Extra innings, colon, the flip side. Well, I appreciate that. And you know what? You want to talk about something else that's kind of ironic? Even though I totally get that people are going to be out there and say, hey, well, you know, they would give themselves over to this delusion that it would be some sort of a right-winger. That somebody, some groiper out there would think it would be funny and ironic if they killed Charlie. But people cope in really strange ways. The cope is ridiculous over there. And you know what else? Nick Fuentes, who is popping up more and more for me, and he's making me laugh more and more too, I'll tell you that much. He actually had some of the more poignant things to say. And I know that they really did not like each other. You pick these things up along the way. I'm not a real big, gossip drama person, but you kind of pick these things up where all of the where the rivalries are, where all the debate rivals are, and people just really don't like each other. It's not even just about intellectual, testing of ideas. Just people don't like each other. Well, that was pretty poignant. I actually give Fuentes a great deal of credit just for that. I wouldn't call it a eulogy, but it was nice. You go check it out yourself. Let's see here. Joseph 777 says, Frank, Monday is my day off. I make sure because you are my reset to hard weeks. I was offered a lot of money to cover a shift tonight, but there's not enough money to miss, quite frankly. I'm a monthly supporter, but I just wanted to let you know I appreciate you. Thank you. Well, Joseph, I got to do something nice for you now. Please email me. Email me, frank@quitefrankly.tv. I got to at least send you a bag of coffee. I have to. It's your day off. You were offered a lot of money. Can I at least buy you a couple of cups of coffee? Oh, and that's right. Hold on. Speaking of coffee, tomorrow we're going to be giving this stuff away. Tomorrow is going to be the day that we read off the name. Molly at Keto Brainz. You guys know I've been using this for a couple of years now. They've been a sponsor for since February. I'm so grateful for Molly at ketobrainz.com. The description has the link. Non-dairy, non-sugar, coffee creamer, nootropic, lion's mane, alpha GPC, L-theanine. It's amazing. Fantastic to wake up in the morning, get your work on, go outside, get a couple extra reps in. It's just really awesome. Well, guess what? Tomorrow, we're pulling a name. Anybody that goes to ketobrainz.com, or if you go to the mitochondria, her BPC 157, the peptide link, it's all in the description below. If you go there, you buy anything. Doesn't matter what it is, how cheap it is, how extensive the package is, whatever the hell you want. Use the promo code QFJAM. This is the last day for the Jamboree sale there. QFJAM. You're going to be in the running for, here's the prize package for tomorrow. 1 vibration plate, 1 full bag of Keto Brainz, 1 deluxe blender and long-handled scooper, 1 brass knuckle mug, 1 whole bottle of the BPC 157, the Wolverine peptide, and then 1 red light face mask. You get a face mask that red lights you up. That's hundreds of dollars of incredible stuff now. So QF Jam. Had to put that out there because we've already pushed this back a couple of, about a week or so. Didn't want to do too much plugging last week. Just didn't feel right. So I told Molly, I said, hey, and she's totally agreed. So tomorrow is when we're going to pull that name, use that promo code from now until like maybe noon tomorrow. Go for it. All right, call in. I saw everything lighting up on the phone just a second ago. Sentinel says, Plato's Euthiparo, sorry. The query appears to be misstatement of the events in Plato's dialogue, Euthiparo. In the dialogue, it's not a father who turns in a murderous son. Rather, it is Euthiparo, a son who is prosecuting his own father for murder. Ah. See how art imitates life? 630, you're on the air. Go ahead. 630. Hello? Who's this?
What's up, dude? Frank, it's Ryan, man.
Who?
It's Ryan. Ryan Osterich.
Ryan, how are you? You got a little garbled there for a second. Welcome to the show.
My bad, dude. I just want to say Rich Baris is right on fucking point. I mean, right on point. Sorry for the F-bomb, but yeah, I there's nothing that he said that I disagreed with. I think there's a lot of stuff that we need answers for. And what's your thoughts on everything, too?
Well, I already said there's some very weird things. The butler, I wonder about what level of organization it is. I mean, we're being served up a culprit, but culprits don't
exactly.
They don't mean much. I mean, they might be a part of the story, but they're not largely. At least what we have witnessed over the years. They're very few and far between that are the whole story. Even if we want to dig deeper into the cultural reasons why people lose their minds and why they're not able to process reality well, like, well, what are all of the contributing factors? Sometimes we can talk about some bigger societal issues, and then other times we can actually talk about something that is more along the lines of military operation. That's what I wonder.
I mean, obviously, I wonder that too, since I am also in Chicago. Like I grew up a town away from where Charlie came from. So, hey, there it is. You can dox me if you want, but fuck it, dude. Like, when somebody gets killed on live camera for the whole world to see, if that doesn't change you, I don't know what will, man. I don't know what will. Like, and the fact, like, with the whole TPUSA thing that's going on, where, like, I don't know if you saw Luke's video. I think everybody should watch Luke's video about, there was a disagreement about Tucker having the main stage and Charlie put him there personally. Yeah, and what he talked about. There's good reasons there, and why certain reigns of power are making certain decisions, and why it's like, this is not what we voted for, and why I would say the last 5 months has been a giant question mark for everybody that went to the ballot box this past November. I mean, I don't know if I'm the only one speaking that, but I understand that this is, if it's not blatantly clear for everybody, we're at war. Rational people are at war with irrational people that are being controlled by very rich and powerful people.
Well,
that's the best.
Yeah, I guess it's the best way you can put it. Now the finer points are how can how much of that, and thank you for the call, Ryan, and thank you for the support and the super chats as well. How do you cut that pie up? How do you cut that pie up? Because even when I was talking about, I don't know, it started in 2018 or so when we had the shooting in Florida that created David Hogg and all that stuff. It was, there's plenty out there to digest on, deliberate programs, whether they be mainstream or something that is a little bit deeper, that is being hatched by intelligence agencies and think tanks and all that stuff that is there to alter behavior, to alter alter states of consciousness, all of that stuff. The way that you can bewilder people through media and education, and we talk about it with Tavistock, and we've gotten into so much over the years. But there is also just the, for example, the media. You say, well, is every school shooting set up? Or is there also a line of thinking where you assess how we are an insanely sick society? We are set up to produce a lot of tragedy. Naturally, we are going to produce tragedy a lot. And all you have to do at that point is make sure you have the news cameras ready. It's not even like, I know we get into the phases of the moon sometimes and how things play out and how, some things are just drawn up that way. This feels a lot more drawn up, has to be, just from the Butler parallels alone. Again, the best only roof, the best and only roof. Well, maybe not the only roof. It wasn't as blatant as Butler, where it is literally the only structure within 200 yards. But dude, and I'm going to talk about this on Wednesday. I think this is a reason why it was so disturbing to me. It was a blood ritual. The innocent blood was spilt, and in grotesque ways. And I don't know what's going on celestially right now, but you just think about the people who have feasted upon this, and it is like, I don't know. I feel like it, almost like it's the opening scenes in Windswept House, and we all were or like eyes wide shut, and somehow we snuck into the party, and we actually got to see some shit go down, and now we're sick to our stomach. I feel like we saw a lamb get slaughtered. You know what I mean? That's I think that's a big part of it. Aside from everything else, that we're decent people. We don't like that. We don't. There's no gratification in that, like it is for people like Destiny, that typewriter jaw maniac. So, yeah, okay. Stickman Freediver says, enjoyed the conversation tonight. Thank you, Stickman. Safety Net says, I love you all. Just Lynn. Jay Sem says, great seeing Rich again. Great show. Some positivity at the end. And then Captain Flint sends some shades. That's all on Pilled. Thank you, Grandma Grateful says, this is on Rumble. Thank you for the discussion tonight. I've been pondering many things this week. Grimbold 72. I still have one more SpaceX patch from Grimbold 72. We're going to be giving this away with some silver soon. I have so much stuff to give away. We'll do some super chat raffles. Grimbold says, support, quite frankly. Just popping in to support you, sir. I'm behind, catching up now. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And let's take a couple more calls. It's 8:54. We're going to take it to the top of the hour and then extra innings. 816, you're on the air. What do you got? What do you think about everything? Hello? Oh, she's behind. Or he's behind. 914-200-0269. 503, go ahead. Okay. 985, go ahead.
Hey, sweetie, it's Kelly.
Hey, Kelly, how are you? Give me something.
I am persevering. earlier, and I wanted something light and fluffy.
Okay.
There's been so much heavy stuff, and I emailed you a story that I'll try to be quick. I moved from the city in New Orleans up to the country, and I had the windows open because it's cool at night, and I was sleeping. It was almost 2 in the morning, and I just recently adopted a big dog that my neighbors weren't taking care of, and she woke me up from barking, and she was barking like something was outside about to kill me, and I smelled something funny, and I thought it was something in the house. So I closed the windows, and then I went outside to see if it was outside, and I smelled it outside. And a month ago, I guess maybe, they had an explosion at a petrochemical place, well, not far from me, a few miles. And I was paranoid that it was some kind of chemicals. And there's some train tracks not far from me. And it was it smelled chemical-like to me. So I wound up, there was no neighbors to call in the middle of the night that I could, that I wanted to wake up for this. So I called the local hotel. They didn't smell nothing where they were at. So I wound up calling the non-emergency number. They're not open during the middle of the night. I called 911. When I called 911, they said, okay, explain what was going on. They said they'd send the fire department. They sent the fire department. The fire department pulls up. I go outside to meet them. I said, y'all smell that chemical in the air? And they said, yeah, we smelled it as soon as we pulled up. It was a skunk.
That's it?
I've never smelled a skunk before. It
What?
was a skunk.
Yes. What had prevented you from ever smelling a skunk before?
I guess growing up in New Orleans and Metairie and the outskirts of New Orleans, I've never been around a skunk.
There's no skunks down there?
Evidently. I've never smelled one.
Oh my God! Well,
I've smelled skunk weed,
okay,
but that don't smell like what I was smelling.
You'd be calling the cops every night over here, especially this time of year in New York.
Well,
all they
at first
do.
I was embarrassed, Frank, but now they are going to remember me and they're going to know where I live. So if anything does happen, I got that on my side.
There you go. Well, that's it. Now that you know the smell, now that you can fall in love with it. Don't get sprayed by it though. Then that's when you have to give yourself the tomato juice, the tomato sauce bath.
Yeah, I remember Matt talking about that kind of stuff on the show. Thank you. I just wanted to give somebody a laugh. Maybe, I hope.
There you go. Okay.
I love y'all.
Thank you. Love you
y'all.
too. Kelly in Louisiana called in the state troopers, called in the National Guard. They got to the bottom of that one, though. All right, let's go 815. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Frankie, it's Dean.
Hey, Dean, how are you?
Hey, doing good, bud. Yourself?
I'm all right.
How does Mike, or how does Jim Lee say that? I'm doing great. You want to fight about it?
Want to fight about it? Yeah, no. I'm doing all right. Well, so we're running out of time, so give me your best point.
Yeah. Well, rule number one, if you're going to be a Frankie, don't piss off Sentinel. He'll start cussing at you.
I know.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
But the second thing I had to say is you had a caller. I believe it was the caller right after Sentinel. You guys don't get demoralized, man. We're winning this fight without lifting a finger. It's brain power. It's will. We're not the violent ones, and we're winning. I know it seems like we're not, but we are.
You're right.
So y'all just keep your head up and keep your faith in God and love your family and trust Lord Jesus Christ. And that's pretty much it, Frank. I know you're trying to get off right now, but you guys just keep your head up, man. We're winning this fight. Well,
thank you so much, Dean. Thank you so much, Dean. It's never. You're right. I mean, there is no giving up. Shit, there is no giving up. And what is fighting really even look like for most of us? That's. I always wondered that when people in chat rooms and on Twitter years ago were like just tweeting into the nothingness, hold the line, as if we were all like shoulder to shoulder it's like Helm's Deep or something like that. And I knew that for a lot of people it's just performative and kind of like LARPy, that they would tweet hold the line with 5 exclamation points and then just go shuffle to the refrigerator and take out a a cheese stick or something like that, munch on that for a couple of minutes before deciding what they're going to do next with their day. Hold the line. You see stuff like that in chat rooms all the time. And it's usually just people just sitting back on their couch. But when you talk about we're winning this, it makes you wonder, what does winning this look like for most of us? And I think we're starting to get down to that. When so many people, and if there's one thing that the internet might be a nice little kind of a looking glass into, it's hopefully it's just a little bit of a microcosm of what people who are out there are thinking to themselves as well. And if more and more people are starting to say, I am out of options, I'm out of ideas, and I think I want to go back to church, that's a pretty damn good thing. That's a pretty damn good thing. You want to talk about the man in the mirror approach to making the world a better place, things like that. And I'm not, I'm not here to push, I have reconnected, and I'm going back to church for years now, and it's getting easier and easier for me, in the respect that it is now a routine that I hold dear, not getting easier in the way that I am any less of a filthy sinner. But I'm not going to push that on anybody, because that's not the only thing, not nearly the only. I believe it's an important thing. For me, it's an important thing. But it's not the only thing that people can do for self-improvement. And self-improvement is how this whole thing turns around. Because individual people improving themselves is essentially a mass of people improving. Where we start getting a little bit, where you start really getting down on yourself is when you think, how the hell are you holding the weight of the world on your shoulders? You're gonna change things for somebody else? You can't. You can't. Best thing you can do is be a good example just by living well. And of course, everybody is going to be brought to a breaking point at some point. Whether it's health challenges you just can't get over and you just don't know where else to turn, and then suddenly, or this, say, what the hell is hey, well, we've been voting the right way, right? We've been doing all the right things. Well, perhaps we got to go a little bit deeper inside. Maybe I should get Lubomir Arzov back on, talk about In Shadow again, and what the hell that all meant. Remember that? The Kingdom, the In Shadow video, and then Kingdom. I think that's the second one that he put out that we spoke to him last April. Go rewatch those. Go rewatch those. That's what I'll say. All right, it's time for Extra Innings. On the other end of the credits, I'll be live on pilled.net and syndicated on quitefrankly.tv. I'll drop the pilled link in the description. I'll be reading the general chat, taking your calls, and looking at a few other things together on the other side until the lights go out, literally. So, thank you for everything. Tomorrow will be really fantastic. I can't wait to hang out with Timothy Gordon, taking your calls then. And you guys, you're wonderful company and very supportive. Thank you. Become a sponsor of the show. I would say go to Subscribestar first. We're trying to get Subscribestar to 100% funded. It's the 2026 funding goal, and I'll let you know all the stuff that's going to go into there, because we are going to be able to lock in really great appearances from people I love a little bit more often. We're also going to have travel budgets so that we can take the show on the road and also bring people to the show. I want more people in this room, and I just don't have a way to lure people out here unless I can pay for them to be here. And I really want to expand the budgets that way, and I want to bring on a lot more social media, because things have been finally breaking our way on social media marketing and stuff like that, and also video production. There's a lot happening right now, and we need your help going into 2026. It's a small operation, and if we're going to compete, we need you guys. And I would say go to the Subscribestar. Not if you're already a subscriber. For new people who have never taken the plunge, go there first. That's where I want to be able to get that progress bar to 100%. We're ready to hit the 50% funded mark. We're like, I don't know, we're a little bit of ways from there. But I'll tell you all of the things, all the benchmarks soon. But I'll see you tomorrow, 7 o'clock.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Quite Frankly, film before a live studio audience, and now our super chatters starring ST, Stostube, Joe Martinez, Twitch 307, Jay Britz, Kilroy was here, Rhinoceros, Richard Collard, Mark Sterner, Rhinoceros again, and Shotzi. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to our Rumble Ranters and our Gold Pillars. I will be live in just a second. Here's the link. Good night.
Goodbye.
All right, that's it. Thanks, everybody.
Will you shut up? No.